Hi, Michael Morgan, and welcome to this week's edition of Shots Fired. Alongside me, the usual gunslingers, Kairos Bodley, and the man, the myth, the legend, Chisanga.
Some introduction. I don't feel I'm worthy of it, to be honest, but some introduction.
You know, we have another man, myth, and legend, plural actually. Dr. David Abbasi joins us as my topic this week is our final addition to this lineup, and that is Modestas Bukauskas. We're going to be talking about you, sir, and I hope it isn't too painful to actually reintroduce into the narrative, into the conversation, what actually transpired at the hands of Khalil Roundtree this past weekend. I'm going to crack on really quickly because I know you guys have got places to go, and thank you again for giving up your wonderful evening to be with us. Now, I'm going to basically start things off by saying this. When I saw what transpired this past weekend, now for me, Khalil Roundtree, obviously like yourself, was playing by the rules. He was basically, I suppose, meeting out. He was actually, I suppose, giving out a legal technique, and that is an oblique kick. It looked more like a side kick to the knee, but you know, we're going to go with oblique kick because that's the common parlance that, you know, we've heard over the last few days. Now, for yourself, Modestas, I just want to start with the kind words that you offered, and I think it was very sporting of you, very, very sporting, considering what you actually sustained. You thought that your job really should have been to counter, to actually guard against, to actually, I suppose, avoid what actually happened. I mean, do you still stand by your words now, several days away from what happened?
100%, 100%. I mean, I saw a couple of people said, "Oh, well, this is the way to defend" and stuff like that, showing Adesanya step back and throw a kick off of that same leg. But if you watch carefully, the first time Khalil threw that kick, I stepped out the way. So I had already defended it one time already in the fight. So again, it's a completely legal shot. In MMA, you've seen it being used by Jones all the time. This is why I thought it was quite unfair for the media to hound him and say, "Oh, is that legal? Is that this? Or it's career ending, this, that." It's like, hey, listen, there's no part of the rule book that says you can't kick the knee. Do you know what I mean? He did a perfect. So I still 100% stand by that statement, and he used it effectively. Fair play to him. Do you know what I mean? This is the fight game. You know, people are going to get hurt. You want to inflict damage on your opponent in order to win a fight. And, you know, there's plenty of other things that you can get inflicted damage. You can get kicked to the head. You can get, do you know what I mean? You can get submitted. You get people's arms have been breaking and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you say that, you know, people say that knees are obviously it's, you know, career ending and stuff like that. But there's one thing I've got to say on that. It's like, listen, I'll be back. Like, don't everyone worry. Like, you know, obviously I understand everyone's very, you know, conscious about my knee and everything. I really appreciate it. So many people reach out to me. It's absolutely amazing of all of them. But, you know, obviously I'll be back. I'll get it sorted. I've got an MRI booked in for tomorrow. So we're on the road to recovery. But when Khalil threw the kick that obviously inflicted the damage, I was throwing a jab. So this is one thing that people are not getting, which is, oh, well, here's the defense. All you have to do is step back and do, you know, this. But I'm like, okay, you try and do that whilst you're fully planting your leg to throw a jab, and tell me if you're going to avoid that kick. Probably not. Do you know what I mean? And in fairness to Khalil, he saw that as a technical thing. I think in an interview, someone told me that he said he had been watching that I was putting a lot of weight on my lead leg. So obviously in a fight, you see that as a tactical error that I was making that he looked to capitalize, and he did it. So as I say, fair play to him. He done well there. And apparently he'd been, you know, that was something that he watched in his fight and some of my previous fights and stuff like that. So obviously, yeah, it's well within the rule set. He did what he had to do. But the main thing is that I will recover and I'll be back. So, you know, I ended up losing the fight, losing by TKO. But it's not going to be a career-ending injury for me, and everything's going to be okay. So fair play to Khalil once more. He's an upstanding guy. He came up to me afterwards in the hallway and just said, "Listen, I prepared very well for you. I hope you're okay and hope you have a speedy recovery." What more can you ask for? Do you know what I mean? That is sportsmanship at its highest level. and you got to appreciate stuff like that. You're in there to hurt each other. You're in there to inflict damage, but then afterwards we can sit there and say, do you know what? We're athletes, so fair play.
100%. Just before we bring in Dr. Abbasi, I just wanted to spend the next 90 seconds, and that is we each, all three of us, are going to take 30 seconds each just to give a quick, well, I suppose from the hip take. And my 30 seconds starts now. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think the optics are ugly. I think the career or the potential to end somebody's career is just too high if you go in with what is basically a bad intentions kick. I think it's venomous. I think it's spiteful, and I don't like it. Chisanga Malata.
Well, you took the words literally out of my mouth. Like as you said, the optics aren't very good, and it looks very, very malicious. As Modestas quite rightly said, look, we're in the fight game. Out there, the main cause is to cause damage to your opponent, but I don't like it considering, like for me, weirdly, leg breaks and everything else, it doesn't look as bad for me. But when I know it's something with the knee, and like we all know the trouble that people can have even just walking properly from knee injuries, it makes it a lot worse. But I'm not a fan of them whatsoever, personally.
Kairos Bodley.
I completely disagree with both of you. First and foremost, it's a fight. Everything thrown is malicious, first and foremost. Yes, sure, if this injury occurred 10 or 20 years ago, we might be looking at a career-ending injury. But modern medicine has evolved. Different techniques have improved upon time. I completely tore my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus in college. Was able to come back in 5 months and was back just like that, just because I had a good surgeon. Let it go. It's a kick. Just like you can rip someone's tendons off with a submission. Let the cards fall.
You touched on medicine there. You touched on the medic aspect of this. I'm going to turn now to Dr. Abbasi. I mean, from your point of view, and let's just discuss the optics. Two of us have actually gone with that as the reason why we don't think that this is a great idea. I mean, just from your point of view, in terms of optics, how bad does that look to you? I mean, you've seen all manner of sports injury. The second and follow-up question is, okay, we talk, and this is from a layman's point of view, about it being career ending. You actually deal in this. You know exactly the ramifications of this. Can it be career ending?
I mean, listen, it's 2021. And, when I see an injury like this, which I see all the time because I am a knee surgeon and also a ringside physician. And obviously we always want to see the fighters compete at their highest level, but always go home safe if possible, but it is the fight game, and it's a very slippery slope in determining what should be legal and what should be not, because there's there's a lot of other submissions or attacks that can cause more damage. But from a knee perspective, when I see an injury like this, although it is it's not ideal, it is something that I think is fixable, and something that I think that fighters can definitely come back and compete at the highest levels for sure.
So in terms of the types of injuries that you've seen, though, just going back to the career ending aspect to it, I mean, that's what I'm really trying to push you on. Can it be career limiting, career ending?
I mean, look, anything is possible, and nothing is a guarantee anytime you get injured or anytime you leave the octagon, for sure. You can never give anybody a guarantee, but I would say, common things being common, a lot of fighters have come back from big knee operations, having both knee ACL surgeries done, or having, ACL with MCL, meniscus. Kairos mentioned that as well. It's something that we see very often in orthopedic surgery. I'm operating on these injuries every week, and it is something that I would have a full expectation to be able to come back and return to the highest levels.
Okay, I know if I was Modestas Bukauskas' next opponent, I know what I'll be targeting. Given the recurring theme that could actually, I suppose, transpire here, do you still stand by that?
Myself?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I think, trying to play from a strategy standpoint, I think oftentimes, that other fighters will try to target that. But, we can stabilize these knee injuries and have patients feeling, close to 100% after these. So, if there is, any technique that can be corrected, or, it literally was like a perfect timing of that attack. His full weight was on his foot. the foot hit the outside of the knee. All the tension and stretch went on the inside part of the knee. That's why I was going to be very curious, Modestas, if you had your MRI yet, and it doesn't sound like he has, but what that does is it stretches the inside portion of the knee, so the MCL, sometimes the medial meniscus and ACL can get injured. But these are all things, again, that can get treated with surgery and have good outcomes.
Okay, just before I hand over to the guys in terms of their line of questioning, I'm again conscious of how much time we have with you. Modestas, now you talked about, the honourable things which you basically backed up that you leveled at Khalil Roundtree over the weekend. And, I'm not asking you to detract from that, but given the possibility that you may not fight in the octagon again, do you feel like, I'm sure we all do here, that you should be given another chance because of the nature of the injury?
I feel that it's definitely worth for them to give me another shot, because, I mean, you look at my previous fight, I think, 17 out of 18 or whatever media outlets thought I won that fight. So there's one. I won the performance bonus on my first fight. Obviously, the Jimmy Crute fight didn't go my way. And then here, I was definitely starting to feel my way in a little bit more. And had it gone into the third round, you don't know what could have happened. So, and obviously, yeah, being a knee injury like that, and stuff like that. I mean, I haven't told anyone because obviously you didn't want to tell anyone before the fight, but my knee was already compromised leading into that fight. So it basically just sort of pushed it over the edge, if you will. But obviously, as a fighter, I mean, look at Jack Shaw. He freaking went into a fight with a torn bicep or something. So, do you know what I mean? As a fighter, you just get on with it, you deal with it, you work around it, and you try and adapt and overcome. But I definitely feel I deserve another shot. One thing that's the most disheartening, I guess you could say, is when you are not fighting to your fullest potential. That is one big thing that I've lived with a lot of my life, is having the potential to do things, but not able to fully, exploit it and bring it out there in the fight. I felt, my first fight, I did well. My fight against Oleg Shaychuk, I did well in terms of bringing those skill sets out. In this last fight, you got to give credit to Khalil for managing to shut down parts of my game, which I had been working on. So that is fair play to him in terms of a strategy standpoint. And like he said, he was very well prepared for me. And I feel as well that, just to add to all these points, I've not taken the easiest road in the UFC. I've taken some pretty tough opponents that many would not want to take. They want to slowly, gradually work their way up, whereas I went straight into the deep end with some of the toughest motherfuckers out there. Do you know what I mean? And they have all prepared. Like, what I've noticed is, with me, it seems like they have prepared to the best ability. Like, they have literally done all that they can to make sure that they will shut me down. So I'm literally fighting the best version of every single one of those athletes. So obviously, yeah, it's been tough to fight those kinds of athletes. But hey, it means that I'm stepping up my game. It means I've got to continue evolve, continue improve, continue learn. But now it gives me even more of a sense that, like, I know I have the skill set to do it. All I have to do is just figure out the strategy, figure out the game plan, figure out the way to be able to let it out even better. I said that in many interviews before this last fight, that I was finally able to bring it out. But look, Khalil with his game plan managed to shut that down. But I bet you in the next fight, I'll be able to bring it out even better and shut my opponent's game plan down just from learning everything from this fight. So yes, 100%, I feel like I deserve another chance.
Yeah, we totally agree with you there. And without hogging the proceedings anymore, I'm going to pass over to Kairos Bodley.
Yes, sir. When it comes to your entire medical situation, from the MRIs to the surgeries, are you permitted to go to whatever doctor and surgeon you want to, and the UFC covers it, or do they have their own professionals that they refer you to handle everything?
So obviously, if I was in America, they'll probably have their own particular people that they would then send me to because they'll probably have the connections and stuff like that. But in London, we actually have on Harley Street a set of doctors that are a bit more suited for the UFC in order to go to be able to sort out these type of injuries. I was very fortunate. when I had stuff looked at for myself from the UFC previously, I had particular doctors, and I created a relationship with those doctors, and I was able to then reach out to those doctors once again, and then it created that again, once again, that connection, and then we're able to put them through with the UFC, and then they're working together now and stuff like that. So yeah, the connections with, I'm talking the best doctors, the best forms of medicine and stuff like that is all available, which I'm 100% blessed through the UFC. Had it been anything else, or I don't think they provide that type of healthcare. This is why the UFC is, they are the top of the top, not just in terms of competition, but in terms of taking care of their fighters. So I'm extremely grateful. But yes, they are putting me through with the best doctors to help sort this out.
And I can comment on that as well in terms of the United States. So the UFC always can recommend a fighter in terms of a certain geographic location. Sorry, a little thunder here in South Florida, but they also have the option of picking out their orthopedic surgeon. So I'm down in South Florida, like I just said, I take care of a bunch of UFC fighters as their personal doctors. So they always have the option of picking their own surgeons for injuries such as this or other injuries.
Modestas, one thing I wanted to ask you, you were pretty honest there. You were saying that you don't feel as if you've been able to bring the best version of yourself out. What do you attribute that to? I mean, because obviously in your debut, spectacular debut, like, although it wasn't your best performance, well, going back and comparing in Cage Warriors and what have you, but I'm curious to know why you think that you've been unable to bring the best performance out.
Yeah, there were, we've constantly been trying to figure these things out, look at it over time and stuff like that. And yeah, in terms of skills and bringing things out and stuff like that, we've made particular adjustments. But I just have to really put it down to the fact that my opponents are just preparing very well for me. You know what I mean? It just means that side of things, I need to step up even more to that sort of next level. It seems as though these fighters are bringing the absolute best version of themselves. So I've mentioned this before. Against Kruk, he played a completely different game that he normally plays, and against me, it worked absolutely amazing, and he got the finish. With Oleg Shashuk, he had a long time off, and he was then coming back, bringing again the best of himself. Khalil, exactly the same, coming off of a loss, and then you saw afterwards, he goes, "Oh, if you think you saw everything there, just you wait till the next fight," and stuff like that. So these guys are literally putting everything in order to bring the best version of themselves. And unfortunately for me, obviously, they've had their game plan and their strategy just that next level better than mine. So, I still 100% believe there is not a skill set discrepancy, because I do feel I have the required skills to go out there and do well in the UFC. I just have to figure out a way to be able to sort out the game plan, or be able to adjust in the fight a little bit better. But hey, there'll be things that I already know from this fight that me and my dad are going to be sitting back in the drawing room, figure out, okay, what do we need to do, or what we need to work on more to be able to adjust and bring a better fight. Because I still believe it. Like, look, I have the skill sets. I know I can do it. It's just a case of when I get in there, everything's just got to fall in place. And I think having a fight like this has really opened my eyes even more so. I've definitely learned so many things off every single fight. Unfortunately, having to be off of defeats, but every time I have leveled up, and I'm going to have to level up even more. As the competition gets harder, I can only get better. So you bring in another opponent, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be the best version of myself again to that next level.
Well,
it's interesting that you referenced your dad there, and I couldn't help but notice on social media that your flight back to the UK was somewhat delayed because of issues around your dad and technology. I mean, just talk us through that. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, so we were all supposed to come back on Monday, like in the morning. So we all got to, I think, it was Los Angeles, and then we got there, and then there was about an hour before we only had an hour's time before we had to board the flight that went to London Heathrow. And obviously we thought we had done all the required paperwork, which, we made sure at the hotel, okay, we've got all this sorted. But then when we got to the airport, they said, oh, well, because my dad's been fully vaccinated, he's got the card, which has been signed by, again, official nurses from the NHS to say that he's done it, and or sorry, had been stamped by an official, and but they said that wasn't acceptable, and they said, oh well, you need to basically do the form again. But my dad's like, I'm not lying to you. I've been vaccinated. I'm showing you the card, but apparently you have to have this COVID app, which again, like I say, technology has moved so vastly over the last couple of years, and for my dad it's sort of hard to keep up, and I can imagine for some people it is hard to keep up. And I didn't know about it because obviously my situation was different in terms of I didn't need the app because I still need to get the second vaccination and stuff like that. So we were sitting there trying to log in to try and do another passenger locator form, which took bloody ages, and then we couldn't get the right sign-in details. And it's like all within like an hour before this flight. And I'm just like, no one wanted to help us. No one was like, oh, we'll just do, they were just like, oh, well, you just have to do this. I'm like, okay, well, show my dad how to do this. I thought it was mad how no one was coming to help. I have to, as well say that one of the airline people was very helpful. After I went absolutely mad, it was literally 5 minutes before I had to leave. And they're saying that I could go, but my dad couldn't go. So my other corners went, and they said, you can go, but your dad's got to stay. And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving my dad on his own in freaking Los Angeles. I'm staying here. I'm helping him out. I went mad, obviously a little bit ballistic, maybe a bit too angry with the situation. But the good thing is that guy then really took care of us afterwards. Obviously, I'd apologize for piping up a bit too much. But, obviously it's like we're supposed to be leaving, and now we then had to take a flight the next day at 8 p.m. So it was like literally a whole nother 24 hours that we had to spend in the US. But look, we got everything sorted. We used a different email. We got the passenger locator form done and everything. So, and then when we got home, we managed to get on the NHS app and sort everything out. So we got there in the end, but it was just obviously a bit of a ball ache, when you've had such a stressful trip already, and then it just adds insult to injury. But the main thing is we got back. So look, happy days. We spent some good time together. We reflected on a lot of things. So I guess in a way it was good to have much needed father-son time also.
Nice. Just before we wrap up, I'm curious as to, well, one thing that's been playing in the back of my mind, Dr. Abbasi, in terms of like the psychological ramifications of an injury like this, does it go hand in hand that a therapist needs to be on hand to actually, I suppose, guide the fighter through the injury? Or is that another old myth? Is that an old, something which, again, us, the lay people looking at this injury from the outside have got wrong?
Are you speaking in terms of like a physical therapist after a procedure?
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so in orthopedic surgery, very commonly after surgery, we will require physical therapy for patients, especially in a setting like a knee operation where may or may not require a knee operation or reconstruction, including ligaments. So typically right after the operation, there will be physical therapy involved, regaining the range of motion of the knee, and then regaining the strength. So depending on what ligaments or what surgery is required, that will affect the timeline of usually how long a patient is required to do physical therapy afterwards, and how long it'll take before they're cleared to return to full sports.
And psychological therapy?
Psychological therapy, listen, I'm a big fan of it. I'm a really big fan of psychological therapy. You spoke of, sometimes, I take care of a bunch of pro MMA fighters, and, I hear comments like, the ones that Modestas says, sometimes they say they don't feel like they were able to compete at their full potential. And sometimes we can't really put our finger on it. And I think sometimes, having access to a sports psychologist or maybe talking through that kind of stuff can really pay really big dividends. I'm a really big fan of it. I think it shows a lot of, mental courage or strength to if you have those resources available to you to take advantage of them. I'm a really big fan of sports psychologists, because we always want, and fighters always wanted to perform to their full potential.
Amazing. Dr. Abbasi, Modestas, it's been incredible speaking to you both, and thank you again for lending us the time. Modestas, a lot of, especially on the UK MMA media circuit, a lot of outlets don't actually spend time with athletes after a loss. And well, you probably heard how we operate here. We're always making trouble, but as well as that, we're not actually towing the line 100% of the time. But thank you so much for spending the time with us, because I think that fighters should be able to tell their story in a win and also a loss.
Yeah, 100%. I really appreciate you guys having me on and wanting to hear my side of the story, and for me to be able to express myself and everything. And I think it also helps to deal with the defeat a little bit better once you sort of break it down and speak to other people about it. But at the end of the day, I'm fully motivated. I'm going to get this knee fixed, whatever it takes, whatever I've got to do. I'm going to get back, and my next performance is going to be the best one ever. And look, I know now I'm sort of in a position where I've been talking and saying that I've been feeling good, and not necessarily performing up to scratch, but you can bet I'll be working my ass off. I'll be figuring all this stuff out, and when I go next time in the cage, it will be my best performance. So yeah, I'll figure it all out. It will just take time, but we'll get there.
Amazing. Well, we look forward to your return, and thank you again, the both of you, for actually I suppose your perspective has been so insightful and definitely needed. Okay, we're going to let you go, and we're going to crack on with the end of the show, or with the rest of the show. And, I suppose at this juncture, we're going to collectively thank you again and bid you adieu.
Thanks,
All
Jen.
right, nice one, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah.
A pleasure and an honor to join you, Modestas, and all the best with your. I hope the MRI comes back as good as possible. I hope the knee damage is minimal. I hope if you need, hopefully you don't even need surgery, but if you do, I hope everything goes very well. And obviously myself or any other doctors involved in MMA community, if you need any advice or anything, we're here for you, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, mate, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being so supporting and so loving. Like I say, much love to all of you. Thank you a lot for everything. And wish you all the best and everything that you lot are doing also. Yeah.
Thank you, sirs.
Cheers.
Take care now.
Nice one. Take care, guys.
Okay. We heard it from the horse's mouth, which I have to say, I'm so glad we got both perspectives.
Yeah.
Just from a medical perspective, and obviously the fighter involved, because we do chat a lot of shit online. And I do think a lot of it's from the perspective that, one, we're not fighters, two, we're not medics. And it was good to have those perspectives. But on to, I suppose, this
Look at what you're doing. Look at what you're doing.
and that's we have to basically recap over what actually transpired as the event formerly known as UFC London, which was, I suppose, transferred to Vegas.
Yep.
UFC Vegas 36. Now, bottles at the ready. We know that there was some forfeits for our little bet that we made. The bets, wow, yeah, you definitely need a big bottle, Kairos, because you're going to be doing a lot of drinking. So ham-fistedly try and open my bottle of rum. How about we recap on where we are in terms of what the forfeits are? Just to give those of you who hadn't actually tuned in last up, we, with our chests, collective chests, decided it would be hijinks and jolly japes to actually bet on the outcomes of UFC Vegas 36. Now, the forfeits I'm going to remind you of, and they rack up like this. We're going to start from the
Oh my God.
of the main card. And I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed the card. I thought it was amazing, considering that, we did have a lot of dropout, a lot of fallout. Now that I filled, that's what they call that in the trade. Now that my bottle is at the ready. First up, Paddy Pimler versus Luigi Dramini. I have to say, we knew how this was going to run. We knew that, Paddy Pimler was actually, I suppose, in shock and awe fashion, going to dominate, and that is exactly what he did. That this, in effect, was a mini coming out party for him. I personal differences of opinions with regards to immigration and issues pertaining to race aside, I think that was a solid performance by Paddy Pimler, and he has definitely arrived. What do you think, gentlemen?
I mean, you kind of glossed over the fact that he got rocked by Benjamin. You kind of, if we're going to tell the story of the fight, you have to put that in there. But I think if anything, that made for a better debut. It showed that he can deal with some adversity. But one thing that I was really, really impressed with, because I haven't seen Paddy fight for a while, and I think this vindicated his decision to turn down the UFC twice, was his striking looked good. Especially his kicks, the way he was throwing that lead front kick was just so effortless. So I think that decision was vindicated. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better debut for him now. And I think he said, I can't remember who it was I think it was to RT. He said that he'd knock out Dramini in the first round, and then by the end of like the following week, he'd have 500,000 Instagram followers. He's got 470 at the moment now. And bearing in mind, he only had 270 before his previous account got deleted. So that's some pretty crazy shit. But yeah, I mean, the Paddy couldn't have done any better. Couldn't have done any better.
Props to him. Now, I'm conscious that we've got a lot to rattle through before we even get to your subject. So why don't we each do like a 30-second canter through our thoughts. We've already gone Chisanga. So finally up to you, Mr. Bodley.
Well, Paddy, well, I saw a lot of media members blowing a lot of stuff out of proportion. I heard you do it too, CM. Listen, he got hit. Okay, so what? Y'all are trying to play it out like this man got brutalized, like Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway. It happens. It's a fight. Robert Whittaker damn near gets wobbled every fight. But do you people say his defense is suspect? His shit, it's like, all right, let it go. He finished the guy, turned it back around, turned his weakness into strength. I'm impressed. I don't think he should be fighting someone top 15, but I think they should keep progressing him as they're at it. And I think the sky's the limit for him right now.
Okay.
Whoa. I wasn't saying that his defense was terrible. I was just saying if we're telling the story of the fight, you have to mention the fact that he did get wobbled. And I gave him praise, and I said that showed that he could go through from adversity as well. So
Indeed.
That's correct. You didn't say that. Jimmy Smith did. I was listening to him talk last night, so I internalized that and just thought it was you. That's on me.
Okay,
cool. It's cool. I'll let you off.
The forfeit here was 2 shots or your pick as Donald Trump, as we all picked Paddy Pimler and picked well, no shots for anyone. So moving swiftly on. Modestas Bukauskas versus Khalil Roundtree. Now we've just had the man on, and I have to say I was shocked and surprised how this was actually transpiring, because I had my money on Modestas Bukauskas. I had my bet fully firmed in there. And that's what made me so cross about, which I still see as a vindictive, malicious way of actually of winning a fight. But hey, we are where we are. I picked Modestas Bukauskas, as did Kairos. Actually, no, sorry. Both me and Kairos have switched our picks, and that's our pitcher, to Alex Kafidi, because we got wrong, which was Modestas Bukauskas. But 3 shots from CM, as he also picked Modestas Bukauskas, and he picked his forfeit to be 3 shots. So, glass at the ready, my brother. 3 shots.
Some beautiful gin, Hendrix gin, because I don't drink any cheap shit.
That bottle looks expensive. It looks old.
Hendrix gin is good, and actually, my wife's her best friend, her husband, is the global ambassador for Hendrix. So we're allegedly
paid you to do
free
this
Hendrix for our wedding. So
paid you for this.
3 shots. Oh my god, man!
For our audio listeners, whilst you're actually doing that, I'm gonna fast forward to the next pick, because, like I say, you still have your what you're bringing to the table to actually talk about. So next up, Alex Moreno. You make sure that he's taking those shots, because
no, I thought you were going to watch me do it. I thought you were going
to. Don't get me wrong. I'll be watching on the playback. But
no. I don't have a shot glass, but this is the closest. That's more than a shot, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me switch back.
That glass looks big.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Yeah, that's a shot. That's
okay.
A shot.
All right. Fucking hell. Man.
There we go. Come on, knock it back, son. There you go. Two more to go. Anyway,
Oh, shit, this is gonna
I'm
get
gonna bring up
crazy.
the next page, which has our picks on it. Next up, Alex Moreno versus David Zawada. I have to say, shock and awe, Alex Moreno didn't look too bad in this. And I think to a lot of people who picked against him, i.e., 4 shots, first of all, for you, Kairos, 0 penalty for me, and the man, the myth, the legend, Chisanga actually changed his picture to Dana White for 48 hours.
I did indeed.
He did it. So, 4 shots for you, Kairos. Actually, I want to see this. So I know it's no good for our audio listeners, but how many have you taken so far, Kairos?
0.
Oh, right. It's just I had my screen obscured. Okay, so come on, let's get on with this then. How many have you done, CM? Wow. How many shots is
Oh, shit.
My guy. Okay. For our audio listeners, he probably had about 5 shots in that 16 glugs that he just had.
Oh, my God.
I told you I'm not afraid of you, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Your liver will be, though, by the end of this.
I'm built different.
Okay, so just cracking on really, really quickly. The heavyweight. Actually, have I missed any? But I feel as though I haven't missed one. So we're now at the heavyweight co-main event. Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Spivak. 7 shots was the forfeit for this.
I chose Aspinall. I'm not scared of that one. I know I chose the right one.
For 72 hours, and there were 0 penalties here. I have to say, Tom Aspinall for me, again, I know it's an old cliche, but he's a heavyweight who moves like a middleweight. He is incredibly fast, incredibly slick.
He's the fastest heavyweight in the UFC roster. I said this when he signed. I said you're not going to see a heavyweight with the speed and in particular hand speed that Tom Aspinall has. And lo and behold, it's transpired. I remember I was at a UFC gym media day. You probably didn't get the email, Mike, because you ain't in the good books. But yeah, he was hitting pads with Colin Heron. There was actually a media day for Darren Till before he fought Gastelum, and that's when Darren Till announced that Tom had got signed by the UFC. And I just watching him move there and hearing like the crispness and the power that he generates in his shots and short range shots as well. It was frightening. And obviously I knew going into as soon as he got signed by the UFC that he'd be a problem. But after seeing it in person, I was like, Jesus, some of these guys, like especially the lower tier heavyweights, and by no means being disrespectful, I knew that they were going to be in trouble big time, purely just because, as you said, of the speed and athleticism. And let's not forget as well, he has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to fall on as well. So, and he's not even showcased those. Oh, he has showcased that skill once against Andrei Arlovski, but he hasn't really had to showcase it, if you know what I mean.
Kairos?
I'm trying to collect my thoughts. I think that I have a fast metabolism. My body breaks down stuff fast. So it's my body. Okay. He looked impressive. He looked very impressive. I think he called out like number 2. I think he called out I'm not number 2. I think he called out number 13, Chris Dawkins. I don't want to see him fight that right now. I like both of them. I feel like they should just keep doing what they're doing and then inevitably they'll meet up. I think he should go after number 14 or maybe like anybody within striking range, but I hate when people throw in prospects and people on winning streaks so early. Let that shit build. It will be crazy when we finally see number 2 and number 1 fight and they got 8 and 9 fight winning streaks. That shit is underrated to see.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think he also called out who's the Bulgarian? Ivanov, Blagoy Ivanov.
Oh, that's a good fight.
That's a good fight and a testing fight because Blagoy Ivanov has got a chin on him. Yeah. Do you remember the fight? Was it 244 when he fought Derek Lewis? Yeah, it was. Oh my God, the amount of punishment he took that night was.
He took shots.
Yeah, he took. Well, he's got a hole in his chest. What did he get that from getting shot? Oh, I think that might have been the story. I'll have to. Well, we really need
stabbed.
We really need, like, you know how we said Joe Rogan needs one? We need an independent fact checker when we're on the podcast. But okay, we're moving on. I see Mike is getting his shot glass filled.
I'm feeling a little bit left out because all of my forfeits I don't actually have to do because I've done them, and that was the changing my picture to Alex Kafidi. But I'm going to join my brethren in a shot just before we go to the main event, where I'm going to be crowing for the longest while. So just bear with me. That's beautiful.
What do you have there?
This is Casario passion fruit rum. That's beautiful.
Y'all just love rum, huh?
Beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, to the main event, Darren Till versus Derek Brunson. 10 shots will show your buttocks. Now, I went with show my buttocks because I was convinced it was going to be nigh on impossible for Darren Till to win this, especially when you look at the juggernaut win streak that Derek Brunson was on. But not only that, just looking at it, this was the determining factor, believe it or not. It was this one simple thing. In the run-up to this, Darren Till, for me, looked as though he'd checked out. Darren Till, for me, looked like he was more concerned with the belt than the win. Darren Till, for me, when he was talking about, I'm not asked, in almost kind of like resigned fashion of, I'm not dialed in here. That's the kind of impression that made me feel, you know what? Derek Brunson, his mind is solid steel right now. And that's why I went with Derek Brunson on the strength of that attitude of Darren Till. But not only that, I think Darren Till is good, but he's not great.
No, yeah, I think, well, let's not forget, right, in his 228 fight with Tyron Woodley tried to take him down and couldn't. So that gave me confidence in him being able to stuff the takedown. But I forgot that Derek Brunson is full-on Super Saiyan Derek Brunson at this moment in time. He's just, since moving down to Sanford MMA and dyeing his hair blonde, he's just he's just been reinvigorated, and I think he's another testament to the fact that if you keep plugging away, like the success might not come to you early in the UFC career, but if you keep plugging away, then it can come to you later on. And fair play to him. And I really think that, well, if I was him, if I was in his position, I would sit and wait for that title shot. Like, as he said in the Octagon interview, post-fight interview, he said, "I'm not broke. I can sit and wait," because it's a hell of a risky fight, fighting Jared Cannonier for a title eliminator, just to keep busy. Just take the time off, and just dissect the games of respective games of Adesanya and Robert Whittaker, and then just put yourself in the best possible position to fight both men. But as it goes, going back to Darren, you were confident going into it, Mike, but you must have been a bit worried when he was tagging him with left hands early to begin with.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because
okay, all right. In the third round, you must have been.
Third round, yes, you're right. I was. There was a squeaky bum moment there, and I thought I'd have to get the cheeks out. But I'm glad. Here we are, boys. You better queue up.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a man of my word.
Just whilst Kairos is actually unloading his thoughts on the main event, I'd queue up your 10 shots. I'm going to join in just one shot because I have to say, I want to keep you company here, but I ain't taking 10 shots because no forfeit for old Mike.
You're a harsh man, bro. Yeah, that's what
so as far as my thoughts are concerned, I feel like I realize that there's a serious similarity between Darren Till and Donald Trump. Like the volume just is turned the fuck off. I just realized that now. Like, not realize that now. I knew that he didn't throw a lot, but I just thought that he prioritized quality over quantity, and he was looking for those openings. But I really do feel like Darren Till is so keen on just finding knockout shots that he allows his analysis to paralyze him to the point where he just won't throw as much. Yes, he opened up, but it's always, he's opening up. I think that Darren Till needs to change camps, or he needs to be throwing at least 100 strikes around. He doesn't have to land 100, but he needs to be throwing. He needs to just be throwing a lot more. And he needs to fucking wrestle. He needs to learn how to defensively wrestle. There's way too many great defensive grapplers in the UFC to study and learn from for you to just be fighting like this. Yes, I'm not going to take anything away from Derek Brunson. He earned that shit. Derek Brunson is a completely different fighter from where we saw him 2 to 3 years ago. The guy has performed like admirably, and I really do think he should sit out and wait for his chance to fight for a title. And who knows, maybe he could beat Robert Whittaker. Maybe he could beat Israel Adesanya. I'm not going to sit here and say he won't. Okay, yeah, I am. But what I will say is this, though. He has come a long way, and I'm proud of him. But Darren Till, you need to fight a Brad Tavares or someone who's unranked at this point, because the shit ain't working for you right now. Or get a dietitian and get your lazy ass back to 170, because you're still at 185 and fucking struggling to make the fucking weight and keep a nice body versus having a dad bod. You are a fucking UFC fighter and you got a dad bod. Cut this shit out. Cut this shit out.
Okay, I'm kind of conscious that we have massively overrun in terms of our recap, and you guys have still not got to
overrun. Oh my God.
Damn.
I'm taking up.
For our audio listeners, is basically drinking a whole bottle now. I think that might have been 15, let alone 10 shots. But Tanga Malata only seems to be on one shot so far.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
Get to step in.
I'm holding up the show.
Whilst you're queuing up your 10, I'm going to go with Kairos for what you're bringing to the table this week.
Do we really care about mental health? Like, I know the MMA community has a bunch of people who don't care about anybody, but then within that group of people, we have people who do care about people. And then within those people who care about people, we have people who care about mental health. But it seems like we pick and choose whose mental health we want to care about. Like me personally, I noticed this with myself. When BJ Penn is obviously going through a mental crisis, I see it as crunch time to make jokes, time to fucking just drag him through the mud. But it's obvious he has mental issues. And if I really did care about people, I wouldn't do what I did to BJ Penn. With how I do to other people. Tyron Woodley, same thing. He's obviously dealing with a psychological block with how his performances are going. Yes, sure, he's old, but it's obviously a psychological block. But yet I dragged him last week. You want to look at another thing. Stephan Bonner?
Stephan Bonner, that's right.
Stephan Bonner is dealing with a serious opiate problem with pain and whatever dependency he has. Me, off rip, I wanted to just fucking flame him. And right before I pressed send on the tweet, I was like, wait a second. I was like, I'm fucked up. I was like, I can't do this. How can I say I care about these people and try and advocate for mental health awareness? But yet I'm constantly targeting people that I have reason to, but that doesn't make it right. It's still the principle, not the person. And the whole time I was focused on the person, not the principle. Same thing with, who was the other person that, Maria Agapova. She's been dealing with some serious crazy substance abuse. Same thing. I don't need to keep going on with case-by-case basis, but the net result is still the same. Do you think most people who claim to care about mental health and the wellness of these athletes truly do care about it? Or is it just when it's a fighter that I like or when it's a fighter that I don't hate, that's when I start to care? As I said before, me personally, I noticed that it's a person that if I don't care about, like in a negative way, I'll definitely care. And I need to change that. I need to correct that and I need to rectify that. I'm wrong for that. But what do you guys think about yourselves? Let's go with CM is still struggling with them shots. We're going with Morgan. He's struggling with them shots.
You're not even on. Listen, I've done 3.
Look at his face.
I've done 3.
He's struggling. I saw the look.
Moving on to number 4. All right,
Dr. Malata, your father would not be proud. He's like, my son's poisoning his liver right now. How dare he do that to his body?
Do you know? Speaking of my father, he's never drunk a drop of alcohol in his life
because he has sense.
No way.
Yeah. No. Also in Zambia, there's a big like drinking culture. Like it's very, very people drink it to excess over there. And I think that put him off from a young age. Okay, this is number 4, people, right?
Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to jump in then and I'll answer Kairos' question. To answer your question, Kairos, I don't believe people understand about mental health. I do feel like they care, but they don't understand. And a lot of that has to do with stigma. A lot of that has to do with a misunderstanding of how it actually is quite a aspect of the sport. But I think also, let's just cut to the chase here. People don't care about athletes when they are on the mend or when they have ill health or when they have an injury, because what they want to tune in for are those knockouts, are those subs. So yes, in one sense, they care about fighters' mental health, but only when it doesn't get in the way of the knockouts and the subs.
Okay.
All right. I need to go get another thing because I'm finished. That's 5, so I'll do 5 more. 5 more.
Good. That's what we're talking about, man. You got to straighten up. I'm out showing you right now, like, you got to do what you got to do.
Wow.
Did I tell you guys I'm going to UFC 268?
No, you didn't.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Are y'all going to 268 or no?
On my couch, I will be. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not going as a media member because it's my first event and I want to enjoy it. But next, if you can get me a shot at being a media member for the next one, I will catch a fucking flight. I'm not playing with you.
Put it this way, I'm going to hold you to that. As you know, in the group chat, this has been floated. But you're right. I mean, if you are actually going to such a phenomenal event, go as a fan. Go and enjoy that shit, because you're going to be working really hard as a media member. And what a lot of the shenanigans that you're going to be getting up to at the event, you're not going to be able to do as a media member. So you chose the right path, son. You chose the right, I suppose, approach to it. Not only that, really and truly, I mean, it has been a hell of a year. It's time for you to put your feet up, my brother.
Mm-hmm. Gina told me though, like my interpretation of what you guys did was definitely underestimated. Like I thought, okay, great, it's a 2 to 3 hour block. You guys show up and you do this, and she's like, no, you got to set up hours before because you know who's gonna show up in front. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know it was that. Like, I didn't know it was that crazy. And like I see people who don't take it seriously and fumble, like that one dude who was asking fucking questions to Matt Mitrione that just was like, bro, what? And you see people fumbling, you see people failing, you see people not putting out the quality that they want. And I understand like now that it's a lot more serious than you think. Like I obviously have arrogance towards me because I'm like, okay, I know what the quality that I can bring, but that shattered that really quick. I was like, okay. Maybe I should just enjoy this one, learn from everyone's mistakes, and then try for the next opportunity, and then to like put together something that's quality.
100%. Like I said, I'm going to hold you to that. But where are we on the shots now?
Number 6, and we are now drinking.
You gotta, down the bottle. Down the bottle.
No, Kairos, no.
Are you scared? You're a grown man with a wife. You should have no fear. No fear. Drink it right now.
She was judging me. She was like, why are you drinking shots over Zoom? I was like, I've got to pay the price. I'm
gonna grab the camera right now. Drink it right now.
No, Kairos, my black ass is too old to know not to drink it just straight like that. I've got 4 more to do. In between, I'll space them out, right?
In between those shots, over to you, Chisanga Malata. Mental health and athletes, I think, is at the core of Kairos's question. Unless you want him to repeat it because you are so fucked up.
I'm all right. To be honest, I don't think I will be by the end of the day, but I'm good. Do we care about mental health? I think I'd say the majority of the community does, but we're just now in this social media age where people immediately, when people try something and fail, the people look to mock or look to find a way how they can garner likes or what have you, and kind of profit off of fighters or like sports athletes or whoever's downfall. But I'd say, I mean, Kairos mentioned himself that he said that it was Stephan Bonner you mentioned. You said that your first instinct was to, what you call it, but yeah. Obviously, you thought of that because you're a creator as a sense, and you're an entertainer on Twitter in a sense as well. But the fact that you didn't just fire from the clip and you held back and you thought, right, I actually can't do this. That shows that you do have a conscience when it does come to that. And I'd like to think a lot of people do, but the way some people talk shit on in particular in MMA Twitter, you don't really get this in other sports. You don't get this in soccer, or I say soccer for Kairos' sake. You don't get this in football. But I'd say the majority of the community does. But what I also have to remember is that a lot of people who are interacting with online might be 13, 14-year-old boys. Do you know what I mean? Who are just and 100%. They're just saying all this shit and mocking people and what have you, and not realizing the potential ramifications and which in a few years they might feel when people are doing the same thing to them. So I'd say as a community, yes, we do care, because when it comes to issues like Stephan Bonner, I didn't see anybody mocking him yesterday. I just saw everybody was concerned and everybody was just like, look, he's clearly exhibiting signs of CTE and he needs some sort of help. But and it was a sad one. I know I sent the videos to you to us in the group chat. I don't know if you watched the full one where you're just having the standoff with the police officer. Oh, man. Both of them. Yeah, it's really rough, and you can just tell from even if he was doing that aggressively and what have you, you could tell that, yes, this man needs help, but it was the tone in his voice. That's what really struck a chord and struck home for me, because this is somebody that, I mean, helped put the industry and to a certain extent the sport on the map. I mean, like, people forget about the impact of that fight with Forrest Griffin and tough one, the tough finale of one. People forget about the impact of that. And yeah, it's just sad to see somebody that has ultimately contributed a lot to the sport in the current situation like they're in, like with BJ Penn. But at this moment in time, I know we're not privy to everything that's going on in Hawaii or whatever, but BJ Penn seems to be in a lot better place. I don't know if you've noticed, maybe it's him or maybe it's the social media team is posting a lot more on social media and stuff about that. But anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. I'd like to think that we do care as a whole, but at the same time, I think, I think some people can just be assholes and some people just pick and choose. It's a shame. It's a shame, but it's just how it is.
And while you finish your shots, let me rebuttal to that. I really do think people want to pick and choose. And by people, I'm included. I'm not trying to sit here and be holier than thou. I pick and choose. And it was because of this. That's why I wanted to bring this to the table, because I was like, it was one of those awareness moments. You're like, I'm the motherfuckers that I talk about. I think the most of the people who consider themselves to be like mental health awareness advocates are a lot of the time the people who are hypocritical about this shit. Yeah. Imagine if Conor McGregor did some shit. You don't think he suffered some severe mental issues regarding with how he had to deal with going from straight up receiving welfare to being in a top tax bracket to taking head trauma? I'm not trying to excuse what he's doing. I understand people are thinking that right now. I'm not trying to excuse what he's done and what he's been accused of. But what I am trying to say is this. You and me have held him to the fucking fire iron for everything that he's done. And very seldomly you take into account what he's been going through mentally, same as how a lot of athletes in the UFC, how we've done that for. Like, look at fucking Tito Ortiz. Look at the damage that Tito Ortiz has done. Every time Tito Ortiz comes on the fucking Twitter sphere, I'm like, this dude's about to say some dumb shit. And not once do I think this guy has gone through some tough stuff, some tough battles, but that's the reality of the thing. That's the reality of this sport. There's a lot of stuff that we haven't researched, a lot of stuff that we haven't set out to learn. And I think that it's just the people who say that they care the most don't always know the most. And I feel like that's the detriment of like caring.
And the people who act holier than thou, I'm bringing this back to a certain incident, often aren't the holiest than thou people. And I'm not going to be a coward.
Say her name. We already put our profile up. Say her name.
No, she's going to appear like Candyman. She's going to appear like Candyman.
I'm going to say her fucking name. Alex Chipini. First of all, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck your family. Fuck you. No, let me stop. But fuck you.
Are you drunk?
No.
Nah, bro. We're good. We're good here. We're all good.
Okay.
No, I'm not
drunk. Rolling along to Chisanga Malata. What are you bringing to the table, my brother?
You know what? I actually came on without a topic. I don't know what. So... Yeah, I came up without a topic.
Nice.
What are you doing?
No, I came up without a topic. I just planned to spitball and freeball and just
How many shots have you had, brother?
This is going to be my 8th. I've got 2 more.
I respect it.
And just as I was going to get the bottle of gin, the blood orange gin, beautiful gin. My wife was like, "Do you really need to be drinking on Zoom on the Tuesday?" And I'm on holiday, so I've got a week's holiday, so I'm treating it like a holiday, right? So I can't go anywhere, so I'm gonna enjoy myself. All is good. But
you know that you told us this earlier, right?
That's what I was saying. I was like, you told us this earlier.
You told us this earlier. It's not that you're telling us now.
He's drunk. You called him Mike. He's drunk.
No. All's good. All's good. I'm just checking your memories. Checking your memories. All's good. All right.
Okay.
Let me do my 8th. No. Let's talk a bit more. Let's talk a bit, like, because we can't sign off. Well, one, I have to finish the remaining 3 shots anyway.
True.
Any pressing issues that we need to talk about in the mixed martial arts world? I know, obviously, we talked about the card beforehand, and Kairos talked about a good subject, which I don't think actually gets enough coverage in in MMA media mental health. And you raised a good point there, Kairos, when you talked about Conor McGregor, how we hold him to the flame. But let's not forget, the MMA community has also eulogized this man for his achievements as well. And
yes,
and I think I think now, if you're critical of Conor, or if you're critical of anyone, but I think it's more prevalent when you're critical of Conor, you're accused of having an agenda against him, and that's by far. I'm accused of having an agenda against him, and I just say to people, look, I've eulogized this man for all his achievements that need plaudits and needs praise for it, but when the time comes to call somebody out on what they've done wrong or what have you have to do it, because otherwise, and this goes back to a conversation that we've had numerous times, you become an extension of their PR team, which we're not, right? We're meant to be. I'm a journalist first and foremost. I'm not paid to give free publicity for someone and say, oh well, yeah, you get the point that I'm trying to make. But in fact, let me just have a scroll. Look, let's do a random, like, what's the gun that has 6 chambers? A revolver spin, a revolver spin on Twitter, and see what people are saying on MMA Twitter, and then we can make that into a segment.
Okay.
It's a good idea, right?
I'm down to try it.
If you're drunk, yeah.
Mike, let him live, bro. Let him live. His father is a doctor. Show some respect, motherfucker. Let me stop.
All right, that's number 8
episode ever.
That's why I drank them all in one sitting. If you keep dragging it, I feel like it makes it worse if you just keep dragging.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, patience. Like,
that's fine.
At my big age, I cannot be downing bottles of gin. Nah.
You know more than me. I'm not gonna.
What number we're on, by the way?
But for me, I'm on 8. This is 8.
Yeah. This gonna kill you.
All right.
Well, why he does that? I think my response to what you said is this, though. I was looking introspectively when I was getting ready to tweet this about Stephan Bonner. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not a flawed individual, because I am. But I do think that a lot of MMA fans who try to do the right thing, and they're not wrong, they're not bad people, but I do think that a lot of people who try to do the right thing oftentimes allow bias to cloud their judgment. Like when Travis Brown was saying, the UFC pays our fighters very well. You don't think that motherfucker is taking a lot of CTE? You don't think he's taking a lot of brain damage? Yeah. But at the second that he advocated that the UFC was doing a great job with fighter pay, which, to be honest, not accurate whatsoever.
All right, we'll talk about that, though. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, not accurate, but they jumped down his fucking throat. And not for a second did I think that I saw a single person. No, I feel confident saying this. I didn't see a single fucking person saying, you guys, have you looked at his MMA career? Have you looked at the damage that he sustained? No one thought about that. And like I said, I'm one of those people too. So don't think that I'm like pointing the finger at the people who are holding people accountable. I am pointing the finger at myself, and I'm just looking at what I see. That's all.
No, that's fair enough. But yeah, as you said, I think it was Bloody Elbow, the story that I saw it, and of when Bloody Elbow tweet anything that's it has an iota of criticism towards the UFC, it gets a shit ton of comments. Like I saw some of the comments on the story, and people were just going in on Travis, and nobody, as you said, nobody was playing devil's advocate and was being like, oh, okay, well, he could have formulated this opinion because of extenuating circumstances being CTE that he's had or what have you. But I saw a lot of comments where people were like, well, you're just living off the money your wife made anyway. People. Yeah, I
mean, that's probably true. That's probably true. But like, you know,
yeah, it might be true. It might be true. But that doesn't. But okay, that might be true to a certain extent, and I'm sure maybe it is. Maybe it's 70-30. I don't know, but that shouldn't stop him from having that shouldn't stop him from being able to express his opinion, and if he believes that UFC pay well, which I don't personally, but he should be allowed to say that. He should be allowed to state that. But to then to bring up the fact that his wife has been more successful than he ever has, I think that's just again, it goes back to people not caring about the potential mental health ramifications. People are just firing from the clip and just being like, I know it's a very, very archaic way of thinking, but it's still prevalent to this day that the man should be the breadwinner and the man should be the provider and what have you. And we don't know how Travis is feeling about that. And like, well, obviously Rhonda's been the one that's done, did you do 2 Fast and Furious movies or what have you? Or I don't know. 1. Okay. But she's been she's a multi-millionaire of the 2. And yeah, I'm sure at some point, moment in his life, he's thought, well, this is pretty shit. The fact that my wife is the provider and what have you. But again, nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about that whatsoever, which I think, yeah, people need to think before they tweet. And I know we, as a podcast, we just say it as it is, and we fire from the clip. But I think we personally do that. We don't say anything malicious, and we don't say, what's the turn of phrase I'm looking for? And we're wary of the potential ramifications of what is going to be said. But that's
you just I think for me, you hit upon a theme and a topic that we can round this out on. You know, the premise of Shots Fired is no holds barred discussion, no holds barred ideas, no holds barred opinions. But a lot of people do actually, I suppose, rally against that as a default position on Twitter. Are we saying then that, you know, we are against the no hold barred, I suppose, giving of opinions here? Because that strikes me as kind of like odd given the premise of the show.
No. I don't mean like we're against it, no holds barred, but I mean, we'll say what we'll say, but there'll be an understanding of the potential aspects of it, like ramifications. Say if you're going to talk mad shit about Tyron Woodley or what have you, but your understanding of the fact that, okay, Tyron might see this, Tyron might think lesser of himself or what have you. Mm-hmm. But maybe I phrased it incorrectly because of my buzz state, and I just finished my 9th shot, people. 9th shot within the
man. You're right. You're on point. You're on point.
But yeah.
What do you think, Kairos?
No, that's literally what I did. Last week I was like, fuck Tyron Woodley. I'm not a fan of him anymore. I've been following him for so long, this, that, and third. And at no point during my crusade against Tyron Woodley and his silence against treatment towards MMA fighters, towards Black people, towards et cetera, did I ever consider his mental health. And myself, I try and pretend that I am an advocate for mental health. Maybe I'm hard on myself, but in my mind, I think that I advocate for it. But then when I look back at what I do, I'm like, those actions don't reciprocate the actions of someone who cares about someone's mental health. Let someone who I don't like do some shit that I don't like. Like who's that one girl doesn't matter. Let someone who I don't care about or have like an emotional attachment do something. I'm going to rip them a new one. But let someone that I might enjoy a lot. Like I won't go down there. Imagine someone I do like though do that. I really am questioning myself as to whether or not I would hold them to the same standard that I hold other people to, or would I just remain silent? Which I think remaining silent is the worst possible scenario out of those. You gotta sit on one or the other side. You cannot remain silent. But I think that I would remain silent for some people.
No, but to be fair, to your defense, you are more of a content creator, and sort of mad traction that you would get kind of lends itself when you put your whole personality into it. And I can't imagine you putting your whole personality, energy, and kind of gusto into something that you weren't really into. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't even tackle the topic. I probably would just go into something else and be like, all right, this is dope. Let me put my energy into it.
But also like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but also when you're putting out content out there, there's no personal agenda, and it's not a personal attack on, say, we'll go back to Tyron Woodley. There's no personal attack on Tyron Woodley. You're not saying Tyron Woodley is a deadbeat person or what have you. you're ostentatiously presenting the fact that in his last few fights his volume has been very poor, or there's been a lack of volume and there's been a lack of killer instinct. I wouldn't say that that there's anything wrong with it. That's just your delivery, and I think that's what drew me to you before, because I remember the first time, and I was about to drop the N-word there, but I was like, who is this? I was about to drop the N-word there. I was going to say, who the hell is this guy on, and you could substitute the N-word for guy, obviously, being loud and ostentatious on Twitter. And that's what one of the things that drew me to you. And like, I saw you had an infectious personality, but and subsequently with all your work, it's not a personal attack. I think it would be different if you're taking shots at Tyron Woodley, the man, if you know what I mean, in that sort of way, rather than stuff that should be on the discussion table, like his lack of volume and how he actually performed against Jake, if you get what I'm trying to say.
I hear exactly where you're coming from. You know, I think as we have hit the 1 hour and 20 mark, and we are coming up to our final shot from Chisanga Malata, it's about time that we actually close down this week's episode by saying, you know, thank you again to our incredible guests. Thank you again, gentlemen. Kairos Bodley and Chisanga Malata, you have been good sports. Excuse me. And I my only regret is that I didn't drink as much as you guys, because
I'm gonna throw up. I'm literally about to throw up right now.
We ain't never doing this shit again. That's all I'm saying.
I'm literally about to throw up right now into this bag. I'm not playing with you guys right now.
Do not throw up.
Wow.
Bruh. And that is why, Kairos, and let the audio listeners know, that is why you pace yourself when you have a lot of shots to do.
Speaking of shots, we're done. Until the next episode, take care of yourselves.
Peace and love, people. Oh, Kairos.
I'm serious about the throw up.